Most parents don't realize this until years later, but the most important parenting window you will ever get is not the teenage years, not kindergarten, not even elementary school. It's the quiet, easily overlooked years before your child turns 3. And what makes this dangerous is that everything looks fine on the surface while invisible patterns are being locked in underneath, patterns your child will live inside for decades. If your child is under 3 right now, or even if they've just passed that age, what I'm about to say might feel uncomfortable, because it challenges a lot of normal parenting advice, but it can quietly change the entire direction of your child's emotional life. Most parents think mistakes look dramatic, yelling too much, being too strict, being absent, but the real damage almost always happens in moments that feel small, reasonable, even loving at the time. That's why so many parents say later, "I wish someone had told me this earlier." Before your child turns 3, your child is not learning rules, discipline, or manners the way we think they are. They are learning whether the world is safe, whether emotions are allowed, and whether connection disappears when things get hard. And once those lessons settle in, they don't disappear just because a child gets older. They become the lens through which everything else is interpreted. One of the biggest mistakes parents make before age 3 is assuming their child understands logic the way an adult does. When a toddler screams, resists, throws something, or collapses into tears, it's easy to think they are being dramatic, stubborn, manipulative, or defiant. But biologically, their brain is not capable of controlling emotion the way ours is. Their emotional brain is fully online, but the part responsible for impulse control, reasoning, and self-soothing is still under construction. When we explain, lecture, threaten consequences, or demand calm in the middle of emotional overload, the child doesn't learn regulation. They learn that their feelings are too big for the relationship. Over time, this teaches them to either suppress emotions or escalate them to be seen, neither of which builds emotional security. What they needed in that moment was not understanding words, but understanding presence. Another mistake that quietly shapes a child's nervous system is responding inconsistently to distress, sometimes comforting quickly, sometimes ignoring, sometimes getting frustrated, sometimes joking it away. From an adult perspective, this feels normal. Life is busy, emotions vary, but from a toddler's perspective, unpredictability is stressful. A young child's brain is wired to scan for patterns. When comfort is reliable, their nervous system learns to settle faster. When comfort is inconsistent, their system stays on high alert. This doesn't create independence, it creates anxiety. Secure children don't become independent because they're pushed. They become independent because they feel safe enough to explore. Many parents also make the mistake of overvaluing obedience before age 3. We praise compliance, quietness, and good behavior without realizing what might be happening underneath. When a child learns that approval comes primarily from being easy, agreeable, or quiet, they don't stop having needs, they just stop expressing them. This can look like a well-behaved toddler, but later becomes a child who struggles to say no, who disconnects from their own feelings, or who becomes explosive when pressure builds too high. Obedience without emotional safety doesn't build character, it builds coping strategies that often fall apart later. Another subtle but powerful mistake is minimizing emotions because they seem small to us. Saying things like, "You're okay," "It's not a big deal," "Stop crying," or "That didn't hurt" often comes from a place of care. But to a child, it sends the message that their internal experience is unreliable or inconvenient. Over time, this teaches them to distrust their own feelings. Emotional validation doesn't mean agreeing with behavior, It means acknowledging experience. When a child feels seen in their emotions, they calm faster, not slower. Dismissing emotions might stop the crying in the moment, but it increases emotional confusion long term. Before age 3, children are also forming their sense of self largely through how adults respond to them. When frustration or messiness is met with irritation, sarcasm, or withdrawal, even subtly, the child doesn't think my parent is tired. They think something is wrong with me. Shame doesn't require harsh words. It grows quietly in repeated moments where a child feels like their needs create distance. Children who internalize shame early often become either overly pleasing or highly defensive later in life. Another common mistake is assuming that independence means separation. Pushing children to self-soothe too early, to sleep alone before they're ready, to figure it out emotionally before they have the tools, often backfires. Self-regulation is learned through co-regulation. A child learns how to calm themselves by being calmed repeatedly over time. When we remove support too early, the child doesn't magically grow stronger. They adapt by disconnecting from need. That disconnection can show up later as emotional numbness, anxiety, or difficulty trusting closeness. Many parents also unintentionally model emotional suppression. When adults hide stress, force positivity, or dismiss their own emotions, children learn that emotions are something to manage privately or avoid altogether. This doesn't teach resilience, it teaches avoidance. Children learn emotional literacy by watching how adults handle frustration, sadness, and repair. Repair is especially important. When a parent loses patience and then reconnects, apologizes, and repairs the bond, the child learns that relationships survive mistakes. Without repair, the child learns that conflict equals rupture. Another mistake that seems harmless is overusing distraction instead of connection. Giving a screen, snack, or toy to stop distress can work short-term, but it teaches the child to avoid emotion rather than move through it. Occasional distraction is normal, but when it becomes the primary response, children miss opportunities to build emotional awareness. They don't learn what they feel or how feelings rise and fall. They learn to escape discomfort. This pattern often follows them into adulthood in different forms. Before age 3, children are also deeply sensitive to tone, body language, and emotional presence. Parents often focus on saying the right words while their body is tense, rushed, or emotionally distant. Children respond more to how something is said than what is said. A calm voice with genuine presence regulates more than perfect words delivered with frustration underneath. This is why working on our own regulation matters more than any script. Another overlooked mistake is assuming that children remember events the way adults do. While they may not remember specific moments, their body remembers patterns. Emotional memory is stored in the nervous system. Repeated experiences of being soothed, seen, or dismissed shape how the child's body responds to stress for years to come. This is why early experiences matter even if the child can't consciously recall them. Many parents also underestimate how much pressure comes from rushing. Constantly hurrying a toddler, even gently, creates chronic stress in a nervous system that already struggles with transitions. Slowing down, narrating transitions, and allowing extra time doesn't spoil a child, it supports regulation. A regulated child learns faster, listens better, and connects more deeply. Perhaps the most painful mistake is believing that love alone is enough. Love is essential, but without emotional attunement, consistency, and repair, love doesn't always translate into felt safety. A child can be deeply loved and still feel emotionally alone if their inner world isn't understood. What children need most before age 3 is not perfect parenting, but present parenting. If your child is already over 3, this is not a reason to panic or feel guilt. The brain remains plastic, healing is always possible, and awareness itself changes everything. What matters most is what happens next. And if your child is under 3, this isn't about doing everything right. It's about noticing the moments that matter and choosing connection more often than control. Years from now, your child will not remember whether the house was clean, whether routines were perfect, or whether every rule was enforced consistently. But their body will remember how it felt to be upset and not alone, to be overwhelmed and still loved, to be imperfect and still safe. Before age 3, you are not raising a child who needs fixing. You are shaping a nervous system that will either trust the world or brace against it. And the most powerful gift you can give your child is not discipline, structure, or performance. It's the quiet, repeated experience of being emotionally held, especially when things are messy. That sense of safety becomes their inner voice for the rest of their life, long after they stop needing you to explain anything at all.